What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. All this offseason, since the draft and free agency have been concluded, I've been looking at Pittsburgh's kind of biggest weaknesses or biggest positions of influx and changes, and I've been looking at whether their roster currently today, heading into training camp in the preseason, is better right now than it was last season. I've done, of course, all the draft videos, all the free agent videos. Check those out on this channel. I've done in-depth videos talking about the offensive line, the cornerback spots, the defensive line, the recent cuts and signings. Check all those out. Those are all in the past couple of weeks on this channel. But today I wanted to do a positional breakdown looking at the ins and outs of the inside linebacker spot. That was a big point of contention really for the past couple of years. We've been talked about how it's been, tackling has been inconsistent, lots of missed tackles, hard to stuff the running game inside, hard to cover the slot receivers and tight ends. So inside linebacker has been one of the biggest points for us that we've had to address, and Omar Khan has really addressed it this offseason, more than any in recent memory. This has been, in terms of the players on the field, the biggest overhaul that I've seen for a position all offseason and really for a while. Last season, our big starting three linebackers for most of the year were Devin Bush, Miles Jack, and Robert Spillane. And Mark Robinson was our fourth, but our three guys were Jack, Bush, and Spillane. All three of those guys are gone now, and we have three other guys that have come in the inside linebacker spot. Three starters out, two brand new starters, and one bench guy in. Lots to discuss as far as the changeover at the inside linebacker room. First of all, who went out? Who left us? So Devin Bush obviously was a 4-year guy. We didn't pick up his 5th year. Played excellently in his first year. Looked to be a franchise linebacker replacement, so to speak, for Ryan Shazier. Got injured in, I think, his second season. Missed most of the year. Came back, looked tentative, started missing tackles, started hesitating in the hole, missing assignments. And then all of a sudden, just wasn't himself anymore. Didn't seem like he was going to be how he was in his rookie frame anymore. The injury changed him, made him slower, made him more scared, and made him really ineffective and hard to put on the field. Was a guy that was missing a lot of assignments, was never really a good cover guy, but even his speed started to look a little slower. He looked a little more mentally like he was digesting plays and adapting slower on the field. Miles Jack was a guy we had brought over from Jacksonville after letting go of Joe Schobert from Jacksonville the year prior. And Miles Jack, while he played pretty decently, had over 100 tackles, really kind of came in, started a bit slow first couple of weeks, seemed to have an injury, went out for a little while, missed several games, then came back and had a really strong end to his season. Came back in the last 4 or 5 games and looked kind of like the Jack we expected, but really overall had kind of just an average season. Didn't play badly, didn't miss a ton of stuff, but he wasn't making splash plays. He didn't look very explosive. He wasn't very noticeable on the field. He was, solid in some spots, but nothing special. And considering the amount of money he was going to be paid to come back this season, he was let go as well because the money did not equal with the injury and the age and just what you expect. Miles Jack wasn't the guy we expected. Robert Spillane has always been our most fearsome linebacker for the last couple of years, the most kind of physical, hole-hitting, running back tackling guy, but was always a liability in coverage. And that never really changed. His strengths were always his strengths, his weaknesses were always his weaknesses, and we kind of just knew what to expect. And the fourth guy that has been cut as well, Marcus Allen. Special teams guy, pretty good on punt and kick, fielding and returns and stuff like that. He was a really good defensive special teamer. That's mostly what he was known for. Played a little bit in the game, started out, I think, maybe at safety, played mostly inside linebacker, went back and forth between safety / slot / inside linebacker. Didn't really show up big in any of those places. His most notable play last year was getting a penalty for jumping off the bench and jumping around and getting us a 15-yard penalty in a pretty crucial moment. That was his biggest play last year, so didn't really have a high ceiling here for him beyond special teams. So those 4 guys are gone. Marcus Allen, Devin Bush, Miles Jack, and Robert Spillane are all gone. Spillane signed elsewhere. We would have liked to have brought him back because of his tackling. But those 4 guys are gone. So the room was open, aside from Mark Robinson, who I think was like a 5th-round pick last year, was another guy that kind of looks similar in a lot of ways to Bush and Spillane. Good downhill thumper, kind of undersized, but had pretty good aggression, was able to hit the hole when he made the right decision. He looked really raw, and he wasn't quite sure what he was doing at times out there. Not really a cover guy and not always sure of what his gaps were, but when he would pick his gaps and go, he was really athletic, he was really aggressive, and in spite of being undersized, he was a pretty good hitter, good tackler in the running game, got a couple tackles for a loss, didn't play too badly, had 2 starts at the end of the season against running teams when Devin Bush couldn't get on the field, had one really good, his debut game was really good, his second game was just not so great, so 1-1 in his 2 games he played for us, and he is the only inside linebacker that is back on the roster this year. Omar Khan let those 4 guys go and brought in 3 new names. So let's talk about those guys now and who we could possibly still have coming in and what that means for next season. Number 1 is going to kind of be the ace of our inside linebacker room now. He's kind of going to be the improved version of Robert Spillane and Cole Holcomb. Cole Holcomb ran, at the time, 4 years ago, one of the fastest 40s for an inside linebacker. He was burning people. This dude is really fast. I don't know, again, with 4 seasons and a couple injuries, if he's going to be quite as fast. But the guy is athletic and the guy is a burner. He's the most athletic linebacker probably on this roster right now in a place that I think we're lacking a little bit. Cole Holcomb comes over from Washington, played 4 seasons for Washington, had 388 combined tackles there in his 4 seasons. So the guy is a tackler. He came off of what I think was like 140 tackles 2 years ago. Played the full season, had like 130, 140 tackles, really good. 200 plus tackle seasons in his 4 years. Last year, played and started 7 games for Washington before getting hurt. In those 7 games, he had 69 tackles. So he was on pace through 7 games for 10 tackles a game last year to be even his highest tackling total so far in his career. Has been a captain there for a couple of years, so trusted captain experience, lots of starts in 4 years. Is coming off the injury last year, and that's the one big question mark. But in those 4 years, also 10 pass deflections, 5 forced fumbles, and 15 tackles for a loss. So we're seeing him getting in the backfield. We're seeing a few sacks, I think 4.5 sacks. We're seeing pass deflection, so a little bit of pass coverage. We're seeing forced fumbles, so he's making splash plays, which we lacked severely last year at this position. Cole Holcomb is our most complete inside linebacker. Now, he's still not a great pass coverage guy, but he is a vast improvement from last year, and he's a vast improvement from all the other guys we have on this roster right now. Again, the best pass coverage guy and the best athlete on the roster so far. I like Cole Holcomb as long as he can stay healthy and recover from whatever that injury was last year through 7 games. He had by far his biggest season 2 years ago and was on pace to even top that last year before the injury. So I like Cole Holcomb. He is the guy I trust the most in this room right now. And again, it's a guy that's going to get in the backfield. He's going to cover a bit. He's going to get a few sacks. He's going to get some pass deflections, some forced fumbles. He's going to be a splash play guy. So if he can stay on the field, you're looking at a combination, I think, of Robert Spillane with what Devin Bush was in his rookie season. A fast thumper who can cover a little bit, probably even better than Bush. So I like Holcomb here, and I think he is a big upgrade from what we had. We also signed another long-term team captain, another veteran with a lot of starts and a lot of captain wearing the C on his helmet, which means a lot in the NFL here. 7 seasons between New England and Miami. In those 7 seasons, he has 457 combined tackles, also 10 pass deflections, 4 forced fumbles, and 39 tackles for a loss. And I think he also has, 5 sacks in those 7 seasons. So another guy with similar stat lines to Cole Holcomb. He's not nearly as splashy, but he will still make plays. He's a guy that is underrated for his size. He's mostly a downhill thumper. He's mostly going to be a gap guy, a running game guy, a guy that can make plays around the line of scrimmage, your box inside linebacker, so to speak. He's not a great pass coverage guy. That's his liability. That's where he fits into the mold of what last year's linebackers were. But again, a 7-season guy who is underratedly athletic for his size. He's not terribly athletic, but he will make the right plays. I don't think he's going to stand up for anything wrong. He reminds me kind of Miles Jack. He's a bigger guy that's a little bit of an athlete, but he's mostly going to be a guy that can attack in the run game, can get your pressure. He'll get the occasional sack. He'll get the occasional forced fumble, and he'll get inside there and make some plays happen, which we need to improve turnovers and to improve in the running game, and that's 2 things Landon Roberts does well. So Landon Roberts doesn't have quite the injury history that Holcomb does. He's going to be probably a little more consistent with being on the field, but he's not going to be as athletic or as flashy as Holcomb is. But still, you have 2 NFL veterans that have the captain helmet last year, both coming off 100-tackle seasons when they were most healthy and, playing at the inside linebacker spot for us here. Then, of course, is Mark Robinson, who, like I said, started 2 games last year, was a draft pick they're high on. He's undersized. He still needs to work on tackling form and coverage, but he can be explosive at times, and he's a guy we want to see what he can do getting on the field more often. And then we have a 4th inside linebacker. We signed from Seattle, Tanner Muse, special teams ace, one of their best special teams players probably in the NFL. Muse is a nice guy to have on this team. You want your inside linebackers to make plays downfield. And in losing Marcus Allen, you want somebody who can play majorly on special teams. And that's what Tanner Muse does. I think he's only started a few games in the NFL, has made a few plays, looks really fast. He's another guy that looks very athletic and fast. I don't think he's going to be a defensive starter or really even in the rotation. I think the other 3 guys are going to be the rotational guys at linebacker. But Tanner Muse is going to be your special teams Marcus Allen replacement, is what it looks like. Now, as far as the guys we've talked to and looked at, obviously we passed on the 2 big guys in the draft, Trenton Simpson, Drew Sanders. We traded down, got Darnell Washington, and then we got an extra pick to pick up Nick Herbig, one of the Herbigs. I always confuse the 2 names. They're brothers. But we did that, so we passed up on the 2 inside linebackers in the draft, which at the time I wasn't a fan of until I saw who we got back for it, until I saw who we drafted. But we don't really have that pass coverage, athletic inside linebacker that's going to be all over the field. Holcomb is the closest thing to that, but again, coming off an injury, and he's still not the best pass coverage guy, he's just our best pass coverage guy, you're still looking for a freak athlete who can kind of be more of a hybrid guy, can kind of almost be a slot/safety if needed to. And that's where we were talking a lot to Quan Alexander, who's played for the Jets and a few other teams. He's a guy that was talked about, a slot guy. He bounced all over the field. He played inside, outside. He's a guy that's super athletic, but also being a guy that is kind of getting long in the tooth as far as his age goes. He came into Pittsburgh, visited. It seemed like we were going to sign him and have him potentially even fighting for that second spot over Landon Roberts. He did not wind up signing. I don't know if he signed anywhere yet, but he did not sign here, so the chances of that are now super low. We brought in an outside linebacker from Arizona instead to come in and kind of be a veteran piece for us. But Isaiah Simmons, another Cardinals guy we were looking at. Isaiah Simmons is a guy that was drafted from, I think, Clemson like 4 years ago. He's kind of been in the Devin Bush role for Arizona, where he was drafted, I think, 8th overall 4 years ago. His 5th-year option was not picked up. They just have too many other inside linebackers there. They have 2 other starters there. So they're looking for a role for Simmons to get him on the field more often. He's made some turnovers and splash plays. He was a very high-graded guy I had coming out of Clemson in college. Big fan of his coming out. Was watching his tape. He's made some plays in the league. He's been pretty good in the NFL. He's just, for being drafted as high as he was, he couldn't get on the field because they have other guys there, and they've been drafting inside linebackers consistently to look for what they want them to be. So he has not been a fit for Arizona. But I don't think he's been coached all that well or given enough chances, because when he's on the field, he's making plays. I don't know that he's up to being the 8th overall pick that he was projected to be when he was drafted, but I think he's played pretty well, and there's been talks of a Steelers trade rumor. Now, what we would give up for him would make a difference. Do you trade? If they say right now we can get Isaiah Simmons for a 5th or even a 4th, I would do that. If you can get a 5th and a 7th for him, or even a 4th and a 7th, or just a 4th round pick, or maybe like a 4th round pick and like a 2nd swap, or a 4th round pick and a 3rd swap, if we could swap picks and then throw in like a 4th or 5th rounder, I would like that for us. I think drafting a guy who's super athletic like Simmons, who could do some coverage, who can make some splash plays. He kind of reminds me of Trenton Simpson in a lot of ways. I really like that a lot, considering we didn't get like a Cam Jones or somebody undrafted for some reason. So I think Isaiah Simmons probably is the closest thing to what we need out there right now. He's young, he's athletic, he's a high pedigree guy, and he's got a ceiling that has not been touched yet. So I would like to bring in Simmons if we could. I think he would round out this room nicely. You keep your 5 linebackers, 1 on special teams. Mark Robinson is your project. Holcomb is your main guy. And then if he winds up being not healthy, or if he winds up being good but Landon Roberts is kind of you could start Simmons in that 2nd spot. So you've got 3 guys who have pedigree, who could play there full time. And if there's an injury, or if Simmons winds up shooting up the board a little bit and playing like the 8th overall pick, you could put him in there and then still have Tanner Muse for special teams and Mark Robinson as your project guy who can play in preseason and see what he has, if he's improving in certain spots or not. That would give us a lot of flexibility at the position and give us a lot of trusted bodies with a lot of NFL playing time. I like that a lot. Even if we don't get Simmons, having the 4 guys we have there, it's not a bad room. I do think, to answer my own question, I do think it's quite an improvement to get Holcomb and Roberts in there and get some of the other guys out. I like this room better right now than I liked it last year. It still has a lot of questions. Again, can Roberts still play at this level? Can he be enough of a coverage guy, or is he going to be a liability? Can Holcomb stay healthy? Because if he can, he could be an elite inside linebacker. Can Mark Robinson progress? And is there going to be another guy added? Those are the questions we still have to ask. But I like right now where this room sits, and I like the potential of bringing another guy in to make this room, dare I say, almost elite. But again, a lot of questions to answer. Tell me in the comments below what you think. Please check out my other draft and free agency videos and positional breakdowns that I've done for offensive line, defensive line, and cornerback. Give me your comments below on what you think of this room now compared to last year, who else we could bring in, who we should have brought in, and what you think about inside linebacker for the Steelers. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon with more Steelers coverage in the coming weeks. Take care.